My name is Eleanor Johnson. I'm 62 years old, a retired teacher, a mother, a grandmother, a daughter, a woman. And I am Black. I've carried this skin through a world that often sees it as a threat, a problem, a reason to look away. I've taught children to read, raised a son to stand tall, rocked grandbabies to sleep, and buried parents who fought battles I'm still fighting. But nothing prepared me for the day my body became a battlefield, not just against illness, but against a system that decided I wasn't worth saving. It began with a heaviness in my chest, a pressure that woke me before dawn. It wasn't the kind of ache you shake off with a stretch or a hot shower. It was deep, relentless, a voice inside me screaming, "Something's wrong." I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my breath shallow, my heart thudding unevenly. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. Indigestion, maybe, or stress from worrying about Marcus, my son, who'd been working double shifts to keep his family afloat. But the pain grew sharper, wrapping around my ribs, clawing at my arm. I knew this wasn't something to ignore. I reached for my phone, hands trembling, and called Marcus. "Baby," I said, my voice barely steady. "I need you to take me to the hospital. Now." He didn't ask questions. He heard the fear in my voice, the kind I'd always hidden from him. "I'm coming, Mama," he said, and I could already hear his keys jingling. The drive to the hospital was quiet, the kind of silence that carries 1,000 unspoken fears. Marcus's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. I stared out the window, the streetlights blurring as my vision wavered. "Please," I whispered to no one, to God, to the universe. "Let this be nothing. Let me see my grandbabies grow up. Let me hold Marcus's hand at their weddings. Don't let this be goodbye." My chest tightened further, each breath a struggle, the pain now radiating to my jaw, my shoulder, my entire being. We pulled into the hospital parking lot, the emergency room's red sign glowing like a warning. The automatic doors slid open, and the sterile smell of antiseptic hit me. The waiting room was half full, people coughing, a child crying, an older man clutching his arm. The receptionist, a middle-aged white woman with a tight bun, smiled warmly at the man in front of us, a white guy in his 40s limping slightly. "We'll get you right back," she said, her voice dripping with concern. He nodded, grateful, and was whisked away. Then it was my turn. The smile vanished. Her eyes flicked over me, cold and detached. "Name?" she snapped, her pen hovering over a clipboard. "Eleanor Johnson," I said, my voice strained. "I'm having chest pain." "ID. Insurance." Her tone was robotic, her gaze fixed on the screen, never meeting mine. I fumbled in my purse, hands shaking, and handed over my cards. She took them without a glance, her fingers typing rapidly. "Sit down." "Wait," she said, dismissing me like I was an inconvenience. I shuffled to a chair, the plastic creaking under me. Marcus sat beside me, his leg bouncing, his eyes darting between me and the clock. 5 minutes passed. 10, 20, 30. The pain in my chest was a vice now, squeezing tighter with every heartbeat. My breaths were short, my hands trembling as I gripped the armrests. I watched others, white patients, walk in, get checked, get called back. A woman with a fever, a man with a cut on his hand, a teenager with a sprained ankle. They moved through, the system like it was built for them, their pain deemed urgent, their presence acknowledged. 40 minutes. I'd been sitting for 40 minutes, each second a battle to stay conscious. My vision blurred at the edges, the room tilting. Marcus couldn't take it anymore. He stood, his broad frame towering over the receptionist's desk. "My mother's having chest pain," he said, his voice low but firm. "She needs help now." The receptionist didn't look up. "She has to wait," she said, her tone a slap. I knew what this was. I've known it my whole life. It's the look in a teacher's eyes when she assumed I couldn't read at 7. It's the store clerk trailing me through aisles, certain I'd steal. It's the neighbor clutching her purse as I passed by. It's the air I've breathed since I was born. The weight of being black in a world that sees my skin and decides I'm less. My body was screaming, but the deeper pain was the confirmation. To them, I wasn't urgent. I wasn't important. I was invisible. A nurse walked by, her shoes squeaking on the linoleum. Our eyes met for a fleeting second before she looked away, her face blank. People kept coming, kept getting called, kept passing me like I was part of the scenery. 47 minutes. I sat there, 47 minutes, clutching my chest, fighting to breathe, fighting to exist. When they finally called my name, the nurse didn't bother with pleasantries. No smile, no eye contact, just a curt, "Room 4." She walked ahead, not checking if I could keep up, my steps slow and unsteady. In the exam room, she leaned toward the doctor, a white man in his 50s with glasses perched on his nose, and whispered, loud enough for me to hear, "Black female, chest pain, probably anxiety." Like I wasn't there, like I couldn't understand. The doctor didn't stand, didn't look up from his chart. "Breathe in," he said, his voice flat. I did, wincing as the pain spiked. "Breathe out." I did, my breath ragged. That was it. No blood pressure check, no EKG, no questions about my symptoms. "It's stress," he said, already scribbling something. "Go home. Rest." I stared at him, my heart pounding, pain shooting down my arm. "It's not stress," I said, my voice steady despite the fear clawing at me. "I know my body. Something's wrong." He sighed, rolled his eyes, spoke to me like I was a stubborn child. "Ma'am, there's nothing wrong. Go home." His tone said it all. I was wasting his time, exaggerating, being dramatic. I'd heard it before, in different words, different faces, different rooms. But this time, it wasn't a job interview or a parent-teacher conference. This time it was my life. I couldn't move. Marcus was still in the waiting room, probably pacing, worried sick. The pain was unbearable now, a crushing weight that wrapped around my jaw, my arm, my entire being screaming, "You're dying." I tried to speak, but my voice failed. My vision darkened, the room spinning. Then my body gave out. I collapsed, my head slamming against the tile floor, the sound echoing in my ears. Only then did they move. Only then did I stop being an inconvenience and become an emergency. Shouts erupted, footsteps pounded. "Get a stretcher!" someone yelled. I was lifted, my body limp, voices blurring around me. Frantic now. Urgent. Now. Now I was visible. Get an EKG, stat. Troponin levels now. Why wasn't she triaged earlier? Their panic was almost comical, if it wasn't my life on the line. A nurse checked my pulse, her hands shaking, her blue eyes wide with guilt. I wanted to scream. Where were you when I was begging for help? Where were you 47 minutes ago when I could still stand? But I couldn't. My mouth moved. No sound came. My body wasn't mine anymore. They rushed me down the hall, ceiling lights flickering, machines beeping. Marcus's voice cut, through the chaos, raw and desperate. "What happened to my mother? What did you do?" No one answered. They were too busy saving themselves, pretending they cared now, their hands moving quickly to cover their negligence. A young doctor, nervous, his voice shaky, spoke up. Her EKG shows damage. She's having a heart attack. ICU now. I wanted to laugh, to cry, to rage. A heart attack. I told them. But this skin, this black skin, always gets doubted, always gets delayed, always gets dismissed. I told them. And they let me sit, let me suffer. Let me nearly die because to them, my pain wasn't real. Cold pads hit my chest. Wires connected. Machines hummed. The room was a blur of white coats and sharp voices. Blood pressure dropping. Oxygen levels critical. I felt like I was floating, both inside and outside my body, watching myself fight for life. My mind drifted, pulling me back to 1974. I was 14, playing softball. My leg split open on a slide into base. We rushed to the ER, my mother holding my hand, her face tight with worry. The white nurse looked at us and sneered, "You people always making noise over nothing." I bled for an hour before they stitched me up, the pain secondary to their indifference. That was the first time I learned my blood ran red. But it didn't matter unless it ran white. Now, nearly 50 years later, nothing had changed. The same looks, the same doubts, the same disregard. A new doctor entered, her brown skin a beacon in the sterile room. Her badge read, Dr. Aisha Carter, Cardiology. She leaned close, her voice soft but firm. "I'm here, Ms. Johnson. You're safe now. I'm sorry this happened." Her apology wasn't just for the heart attack. It was for the system that let me slip through the cracks, that saw my skin, and decided I could wait. She squeezed my hand, and in that touch was a shared understanding, a silent acknowledgement of what it means to navigate this world as a Black woman. Her voice sharpened, commanding the room. Why was she sitting for nearly an hour with chest pain? Where's the intake report? Who saw her first? Silence. Heads bowed, eyes averted. No one had answers, because now someone was watching. Now there was accountability, but accountability didn't fix my heart. The machines kept beeping, my vitals unstable. Dr. Carter worked fast, ordering tests, scans, interventions. Every result confirmed what I'd known. A clot, a blockage, a full-blown myocardial infarction. If they'd listened earlier, the damage could have been less. The delay changed everything. The machines screamed. "She's crashing!" Someone shouted. Dr. Carter's voice was steady, cutting through the chaos. "Defibrillator now!" Paddles hit my chest, a jolt ripping through me, my body arching off the stretcher. Everything went white, then black. Silence. Nothing. Then, a gasp. Air flooding my lungs, pain searing through me. I was back, barely, my heart stuttering but beating. My mind flooded as my body fought. I saw my grandmother, her hands calloused from scrubbing floors for families who wouldn't let her use their bathroom. I saw my mother, working 2 jobs, her back bent, but her spirit unbroken. I saw my father, called boy, by men half his age, swallowing his pride to keep us fed. I saw myself, young and hopeful, sitting in classrooms where teachers assumed I was slow, applying for jobs where managers assumed I'd steal, visiting doctors who assumed I exaggerated. Every glance, every whisper, every doubt stacked up, brick by brick, building a wall I'd climbed my whole life. I remembered being 6, walking with my grandmother down Jefferson Street. A white man passed us, didn't look at her, but spit, the glob landing inches from her shoes. She squeezed my hand, didn't flinch, kept walking, head high. I asked, "Grandma, why didn't you say anything?" She said, "Baby, when you Black, silence is sometimes the only armor you got." Her silence kept her alive, but my silence, sitting in that waiting room, clutching my chest, nearly killed me. Hours blurred into days. Dr. Carter stayed close, her presence a lifeline. She explained everything, no sugarcoating, just truth. "You had a myocardial infarction," she said, her voice heavy. "The delay caused more damage than necessary. If we'd caught it earlier, it would have been simpler, less invasive. But the delay, it changed everything." Her words weren't just medical. They were a confession, not of her fault, but of the system's. "We see this too often," she said, her eyes meeting mine. "Black women, ignored, dismissed, dying because of it. It's systemic and it's killing us." I nodded, too weak to speak, but I didn't need her to tell me. I'd lived it. I didn't need research papers or statistics. I'd felt it in every waiting room, every doctor's office, every moment my pain was questioned. I knew the numbers. Black. Women are 50% more likely to die from heart disease than white women, often due to delayed or inadequate care. I knew because I was one of them. Lying there, wired to machines, fighting not just a heart attack but centuries of neglect. A week later, I walked out of that hospital, a scar above my heart, the skin puckered and raw. It wasn't just from the surgery. It was from being unseen, unheard, undervalued. It was a mark of survival, not just of a heart attack, but of a system that tried to erase me. I moved slowly, Marcus at my side, his arm steadying me. The sunlight felt harsh. The world, too loud. I wasn't healed, not whole, but I was alive. Different. Every time I look at that scar, I hear it whisper. You were right. Your pain was real. You were never crazy, never dramatic, never weak. But it also screams. They didn't believe you until they almost killed you. I see it in the mirror, a jagged line that tells a story bigger than me. It's the story of every black woman who sat in a waiting room, clutching her chest, fighting to breathe, fighting to be heard, fighting to survive while the world looks at her and sees anything but urgency. I think of my grandmother. Her silence a shield. I think of my mother, her strength of fire. I think of Marcus, his voice breaking as he demanded answers. I think of Dr. Carter, her hands fighting for me when others wouldn't. And I think of all the women who didn't make it, who sat too long, who were dismissed too quickly, whose scars never got the chance to form. I tell this story not for pity, not for sympathy. I tell it because it's not just mine. It's every black woman's story, every grandmother, mother, daughter, sister, who's been told her pain isn't real, her life isn't urgent. It's the story of a system that sees our skin and decides we can wait, we can suffer, we can die. I was just a patient, until they saw my skin. And that truth, that raw, brutal truth, is one we can't keep silent. I go back to that hospital sometimes, not as a patient, but as a voice. I speak at community meetings, share my story with nurses, with doctors, with anyone who'll listen. I tell them about the 47 minutes, the dismissal, the collapse. I tell them about Dr. Carter, about accountability, about survival. Some listen, their faces tight with guilt or discomfort. Others nod politely, their eyes already elsewhere. But I keep speaking, because silence isn't my armor anymore. My voice is. Marcus drives me to these talks, his pride quiet but fierce. My grandbabies draw pictures of me, their super nana, with a heart that glows. They don't know the whole story yet, but they will. They'll know what it means to fight, to survive, to demand to be seen. And maybe, just maybe, they'll live in a world where their pain is believed the first time, where their skin doesn't mark them as less, where their hearts don't have to break to be heard. Until then, I carry this scar, this story, this truth. It's heavy, but it's mine, and I'll keep telling it, keep fighting, keep breathing, Because I am Eleanor Johnson, teacher, mother, grandmother, woman, black, and still here.